Let me introduce myself to you. This is who I am. No more, no less.
Sponsored by
Written in these walls are the stories that I can't explain. The story of my life, I take her home. I drive all night to keep her warm in time. It's frozen.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Fast Psych, your quality telepartner.
Hi, welcome to Seeing the Need, Finding the Solution with the 2013 Home Makeover Giveaway, Stories of Healing and Hope, Arizona Cardinals fan giveaway, and so much more this season. First, you want to thank Fast Psych for sponsoring the first part of this segment. Information has just popped up on your screen, so go ahead and give them a call. Great bunch of guys that do a lot of great buildings and different things here in Arizona, so take a look at their website and see what you can do to use them as well and partner with them. Today we have some returning guests, and we felt the need to bring these guests back to share their stories of healing and hope. It's not just about being able to bless somebody with a gift of maybe remaking a home that's doing something amazing in the community, or gifts, or reaching out. It's also those areas of those people's lives that have came from trials and tribulations and some amazing stories that allow us to be able to do what we do, and that's why we do it, is to go after those people and that come with that life experience that other people can relate to, so that they may have a chance to say, hey, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. And we're talking about any type of somebody that's in recovery, or that's gone through some sort of depression, or some tragic experience in their life that maybe not has found that element of relief. So with that, I'm going to jump right in with the Executive Director, CEO, Partners in Recovery. Hi, welcome, Christy. Welcome back.
Morning, Phil. Thanks.
And I'm going to let Christy introduce her guest today, and then I'll jump back in and we'll go from there.
Sure, and thanks again for the opportunity to be back on the show. We really have enjoyed the time that we've worked with you on the kickball tournament, things like that, and in particular this holiday campaign, where some lucky family will win a home makeover. So we're very proud to be a sponsor of that. Just wanted to set this up by saying, we're here today actually to spend most of our time talking to Wa Mai, who is the Chief Transformation Officer for Partners in Recovery. And WA is very special for a couple reasons. So when Partners in Recovery was founded, we were created about 4.5 years ago, we came here to do something different. Mm-hmm. We did not form and create a corporation and hire staff just to deliver traditional mental health services. That's not what we were about. We were about creating an opportunity for possibility in the lives of people with very severe mental illnesses and a lot of behavioral health challenges. WA is a great example of not only being a recovery champion, but actually how he infuses that spirit into the services with our staff, and into the services and into the people that we serve. So, having said that, I wanted WA to kind of take it over and talk a little bit about his story and what he does.
Wa Mai, your Chief Transformation Officer.
Yes.
For Partners in Recovery. Wa, I'm going to go right into your story. So let's start off, I guess, back in Vietnam. Let's start there.
Well, the Vietnam conflict many, many years ago was a very tough time for many, many Vietnamese people, including, many people from here, America, because of the sufferings and the sorrow and so forth. So when when I was 14 years old, poverty, obviously, a lot of oppression, pretty much terrible, no future. My family, my parents decided to get me out of the country to have a future. And I have 9 siblings, and they did this escape. And to leave Vietnam, you have to plan everything in secrecy, just like escaping from a prison. Otherwise, if you get caught, you will be either in prison or shot. So everything was planned in secrecy. It took them 2 years to plan this escape for me. So at the age of 14 years old, my parents tapped me on my shoulder and said, today, you're going to go out to the by the beach and wait for a boat to come.
At 14 years old?
14 years old by myself.
Wow.
So I did what they asked me to do, went out there, and a boat came by. It was pitch black at night, flashed the light, and I swam out to the boat, got on the boat, didn't realize that the boat was really, really loaded with people on there. And then somebody told the police, law enforcement, and they really got us, shot at us and everything. So we took off. Spent 8 days on the ocean, 5 days without food or water, taking care of the little baby in my hand because his mom gets shot and killed on the trip. So, you know, in the moments of desperation because of hunger and thirst, with the baby in my hand, I was in and out of consciousness. You know, I don't know if people have the moments when they really want to give up. So easy to give up, but clinging on something, and I was clinging on something. And I remember, as I shared earlier, hearing my mom's voice in my mind, in my head, could be an imaginary voice, or could be a true voice that my mind made up to keep me alive, telling me that it's gonna be okay, she's there with me. Now that gave me a lot of hope, and I used that desperate, darkest moment in my life to make that into the finest moment. And I woke up the next morning and realized that I was still alive. I was, you know, seeing the sunlight, smelling the fish on the boat, woke up and realized that we were rescued overnight on a fisherman boat. So they gave us food and water, and we drank, and I ate like there was no tomorrow. Raw fish, raw rice, water that mixed in with oil, but those things tasted so good because I knew that I was alive. And then I went to Hong Kong, taken to this refugee camp.
So that all those days you wound up in Hong Kong first. You didn't, it wasn't straight to the United States.
It was to Hong Kong. They placed us in this maximum security prison to make sure that they check us out. And I remember worry about my family, you know, if they knew that I was alive and so forth. So, and then after spending 3 months in that enclosed camp.
So that was a camp in Hong Kong?
There was a camp in Hong Kong, yeah.
And was it locked camp?
Locked camp with security guard, guns, and barbed wires all over the place with guard towers, making sure that nobody leave and nobody come in. Just basically like a maximum security lockdown for us. They checked us out and let us go on to a different camp after 3 months of that, into another less secure camp. We stayed there. Now at the age of 14, I've newfound freedom. So no supervision, no parents, nobody to supervise me. So I got in trouble, of course. But I realized that my life, the reason why I was chosen to leave Vietnam by my parents and made it alive, in my mind, I knew there's a reason, a meaning and purpose behind that, why I was chosen or selected to leave out of 9 siblings, right? But that was in the back of my mind. It was not in the front. So of course, temptation, peer pressure, got into a lot of trouble and so forth. But at the same time, I went to work at the age of 14 and sent a lot of money home to help my parents out.
So did you stay at the camp while you were working and doing this?
Yes.
Is that how that works?
Yes, and the camp, the setup is that, you have to be allowed to leave the camp and come into the camp.
It's kind of like Joe Arpaio work release.
Basically.
All right, now I know where he got
yes,
it from. Okay.
Yes, and because I was young, I didn't have permission to leave, so I would sneak out and go make money. Because in the camp, they did not provide food or anything for you. right? So you have to make your own living.
So how did you go from there to United States? I mean, how did that happen?
So I didn't even know at that time the process until my name was on a list and somebody told me that I saw your name on the list, go check it out. And the list was for an interview with, I think with the embassy, United States Embassy, to see if I am accepted to go to America. And sure enough, I was accepted, sponsored by Catholic Social Services.
Oh, wow.
And I came over here to Peoria, Illinois, where Christy is very, close to. And I live in an orphanage at that time because I was a minor, I didn't know anybody here. And then, of course, once again, getting in a lot of trouble and so forth. And didn't go to school, get involved with all sorts of alcohol, drugs, and things like that. Newfound freedom, didn't have supervision, no structure, ran away from home, became homeless on the street, basically to the really hit bottom. Long hair, smelly, stinky, nobody wanted to talk to me, nobody give me the time of the day. But once again, going back to my darkest moment on that boat, I knew something that I needed to do something different, to reach out. So I went to a church and waiting for somebody to help me, and a priest came out and finally asked me, talked to me. And he said something that 30-some years ago that's still really powerful for me. He asked me a simple question: do you want to be a drunk or do you want to be wah? I didn't know what wah would look like, but I definitely knew what a drunk would look like. I didn't want to be that.
Well, we're going to go to what it looks like to be wah and get involved. So we're going to throw a little video in here of a kickball video. We're going to go to commercial break and we'll be back with Wah Mai in just a moment.
Here to win, here to make some friends. This really has becoming the bragging rights event in the county for the behavioral health system, but I think one of the things you'll notice today is that this doesn't look like a behavioral health service, and it certainly doesn't look like this is a behavioral health system. People are here to be athletes, they're here to be cheerleaders, they're here to make friends, they're here with their family. I've seen some children running around today. So I think it's important that we reflect this back to folks like in our legislature who don't really have that kind of picture of what behavioral health and behavioral health service participants really can be.
Let me introduce myself to you. This is who I am. No more, no less.
There's no stigma or discrimination against the heart, the liver, the kidney, even the gallbladder. Doesn't even have a job.
Yesterday, depression was kept in the dark,
And bipolar disorder was your best friend's mother's problem.
but the tide is turning.
We're stopping the stigma.
We're coming out.
Our goal is to make the discussion of mental dis-ease cool and trendy.
No kidding?
Me too. No kidding.
No kidding.
Me too.
It's time we gave the all-American brain some peace of mind.
We are people, so just think about it.
This one goes out to the man who minds for miracles. This one goes out to the ones in need. This one goes out to the sinner and the cynical. This ain't about no apology. We weren't born to follow. Come on and get up.
Tune in to AZTV at 3:30 on Sunday afternoons for your chance to win the 9th annual Home Makeover Giveaway, brought to you by Seeing the Need, Finding the Solution.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Samish DeBella Architects Incorporated.
Hi, we're back with Stories of Healing and Hope with Wah Mai. Wah, you talked about coming from that Vietnam aspect all the way to Peoria, Illinois, and then got into the drugs and the alcohol and started in that recovery process. I want to backtrack a little bit for the ones that are still out there. When we're talking about the pain or the misery or the hell that you went through, when you were on that boat, one thing that I noticed after we got done talking was you were talking about how this baby was your lifesaver, and how you, and I believe you mentioned how you thought that baby was put there for you. What happened to the child?
Well, the child didn't make the trip. The passed away.
And that was, explain that to me.
Because of the hunger and the thirst that we didn't have enough food and water, the child couldn't sustain. So
and you were holding. You mentioned you were holding that child, and that was, you had passed out, but and that child was in your arms. At what point and where were you when the infant passed?
I woke up with it. The baby already passed away. So I suppose the baby passed away during the night, and when I was not aware of. It's really a sad thing for me to talk about because it was so real for me. And that's why when I use terms like it's my darkest moment, it truly was a terrible moment, and nobody should have to go through that. So it's difficult. At the same time, I'm a firm believer in looking at what is right. What's right about that is that I'm here telling the story. What's right about that is that for many of us out there, for many people out there, and I'm sure, as you walk this earth, each of us has a recovery story like that, whether it be a medical condition, a relationship, financial, employment, mental health. I think it's a universal experience. So each of us, when we go through some tough time, make it a point to hook into a sense of hope. Find people to inspire you, because hope is out there and hope is real.
That happened in 1975. Just out of curiosity, what time of year was that? Do you remember, or even the month? Or
my escape was in 1980.
In 80.
5 years after the fall of South Vietnam. The communists took over the whole country. So 5 years after, and I escaped in 1980s, which was the worst time under the communist regime.
What time of year, season-wise?
That was around March, so the winter time, and raining and thunderstorm, and you can imagine the ocean violently.
Cold that time of year as well.
Very cold that time of the year.
You had mentioned that, and one thing you don't know is I woke up with my very first son, and he was dead in my arms. So just the element of knowing that you just talked about sharing that story and being able to share that story. There's also a beauty side of, here's a beauty to the tragic, where the mother gets shot, but yet there's this infant that you're holding, and you come out of being unconscious, and just for a brief moment, the way that I look at it, here's God sitting there going, uses everything that he possibly can because he loves you so dearly. And what an amazing, sad and amazing and terrific, all together wrapped up in one. In those camps, in that era, before we get back to the miracle, which is really where you stand now, was there any other tragic things you went through? I mean, the camps, or was there any other things that went on there that you endured, that you saw, that was part of your mentality, that now are able to make you what you are? Was there, beatings? I mean, how was that setting?
The setting was very, very loose and not much, I guess, order in the camps. So because because the expectation, the need to make your own living in there. So of course you can imagine people do things to
Get by.
to stay alive. So you see, you know, crimes and beatings and gangs and, you know, violence, you know, really severe violence. And I witnessed things like that. But as a young age, I'm able to get away with a lot of stuff. You know, when you're a little kid, you can sneak by things, right? And I hung around with the wrong crowd, you know, so to speak. Run errands for them, and, you know, I didn't know what I was doing, but they rewarded me, you
Well,
know.
there you have to, that's a whole nother life and a whole other way of life.
Yes.
So wrong crowd to most, but also might have protected you in the process, probably of a lot of things.
It probably true. And when you know, I don't know if you have experience like this, when you are in a kind of, you feel sense of belong, you want to belong some more, because in that moment you have this sense of purpose and meaning. You feel belong, you feel accepted, you feel loved, you feel respected, and you do anything to fit in, you know, and to be recognized, to be appreciated. So that's what I did, you know. And I got by. I got by. But I really want to talk about recovery from a personal experience, because, you know, I'm a strong, firm, wholeheartedly believe in the possibility of recovery. You know, when Christy founded Partners in Recovery, her mission was to do something different than what has been done traditionally.
And what's different about PIR than everybody else?
Yes. And that really attracted me, because what Christy wanted to do is that recognizing people as people, looking at their possibilities and honoring their dreams, and, you know, honoring their goals and objectives, and no matter how, for some people, ridiculous it sounds, that's people's reality, right? And I'm attracted to that, because I know, from my perspective, I'm not that special, but because I have a dream, seriously, I have a dream to be, to use my story to inspire people, to tell people that, you know what, this is not the end. You can do something different. Mm-hmm. And instill that in people, and give people, I guess, permission to accept their personal experience, not as failure, but say, you know what, this is who I am.
You know, one part of that beautiful recovery aspect, and we'll stay in the recovery mode, is that's so important to the people out there, is when you're talking about accepting who you are, is after all that you went through, with the child dying in your arms, and the camps, and swimming on boats in the middle of the cold, and all that stuff, and it wasn't enough to look back and play that tape to get into drugs and alcohol. And once you get to that moment of clarity, when you're afforded that beautiful gift of being sober, and you look back, it's just another element that you're able to give back to somebody, so they can relate that if they went through something. And, you know, because one of the things that a lot of people hear coming to them, if they're an addict or an alcoholic, is, I don't understand why you could do that after that. I don't understand how you could do this after you went through this. And the reality of it is that person is a miracle, and that acceptance of that whole person is so important. When you first got sober, that's where I want to kind of go to. You know, I always talk about your last week out, but, you know, we've talked enough about your last years before that. How did you, I want to talk about sobriety for you, and we have to keep anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film as it applies to certain recovery groups out there. But keeping in mind, did you go to meetings? Did you have a sponsor? Did you work step? What did you do?
I did not do any of those things. I didn't know. I didn't know those things. And I want to go back to that one question that one person asked me: do you want to be a drunk, or do you want to be why? That was a moment of revelation for me. That turned something in me that go, you know what, that is a good question. I have never in my life asked myself that question. I didn't want to be a drunk because I knew at that time that's just not a life that I want to live. You know, under the bridge, in cars, sneaking in people's yards, sleeping in the park. Don't know where my next meal is going to come from, you know. And then I also remember in that moment of revelation, of clarity, I remember that voice my mom told me, it's gonna be okay. And I know her idea of okay is not the drunk part in me. I think that her idea of being okay is that you're gonna thrive. You're gonna be a student, you're gonna be, you know, perhaps an engineer, you can be something different that you couldn't be in Vietnam at that time. So I put a lot of things together, and even at the young age, I was 16 years old, I think by the grace of God, and I guess negotiating within my internal power, that I snapped out of it. I snapped out of it, and I cleaned myself up, asking for help.
And you've been sober how many years?
Oh, more than 30-some years.
And you work in the field now.
I'm working in the field, yeah.
Of people and giving back to those who might be sicker than you are at this point.
Yes.
You know, one thing that was told to me, I want to share this, we're going to wrap up real quick, and amazing having your story on the show.
Thank you.
Is, you know, we were all created perfect, in my belief. We didn't want or need for nothing in the beginning. And things changed. And within that, if we're created perfect with a perfect element of peace, we're always striving to get back to that level of peace that we were created to be. Some try to get it by drugs, some try to get it by alcohol, some try to get it by relationships, some try to even obtain that peace by suicide. And we need to look upon each other to be able to help each other through this with love and compassion, knowing without judgment. It doesn't matter what they are. It's who they are, and they're accepted, and they're loved by, in my eyes, God as equally as anybody in the whole world. If you had one real quick message to give to the person out there that's looking at you right now and going, I went through some of that stuff. How do I get to there? What would you tell them real quick? We've got about 15 seconds. What's one thing you want to tell the viewer out there?
I want to tell people that you are not alone. There are people like yourself, like me out there, willing to help you. And so reach out and ask for help and accept the help and realize what's right about you, because your life is not what's all wrong. It's a lot of right. So appreciate yourself and seek help. That's hope.
Wah May, thank you so much for sharing your life with us.
Thank you for
and the
having me.
viewers out there. Christy Dive, Partners in Recovery.
Thank you,
So much for bringing a guest on. We'll be back with another show with another guest as well. Please go to STNAZ.tv for your chance to win a home makeover giveaway for another miracle in somebody's life, as well as the Cardinals giveaway. The information is on your screen. Stories of healing and hope fueled the Seeing the Need giveaway. Again, STNAZ.tv. You can also go to AZTV.com. Please share your story with us. If you're able to see this show in your privacy of your own home, thank a military officer, and God bless. Have a great day. See you next week.
I will not be afraid. I will not be afraid. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you.